I have got on the phone. He knows how much I love him. We're practically like family. I've known this guy since I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. He is one of my not only my musical heroes, and he knows that, but he's one of my favorite people on the planet. We have the great Terry Mike Jeffrey on the phone.
Hello.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on here with you and with both of you. It's you know what, I got to say it right back to you, Mackie. You're an incredible singer and such a sweetheart of a guy. And
thank you.
We've been down a lot of similar roads.
Yes,
it seems over the years.
Yes,
in more ways than just music. And,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Well, we're so glad you're here today. And now, Terry Mike, man, so our history, I told Brenda Lynn before we got on the phone with you this morning, our history goes back so far, it's hard for me to know where to cut off. So Brenda's going to have to punch me and go, okay, we can talk about something else. But I mean, you've been making music since you were a kid, and you're still out there doing this thing and doing it so well. We've been catching some video clips and things. Now, you're literally at the airport right now. Tell us about what you're doing this morning and where you're headed.
Well, of course, it's Elvis Week in Memphis, and I did a show there last night at the Soundstage across from Graceland with Andy Childs, and he has an incredible band.
Yeah, Six Wire.
And Six Wire, and he had horn players and a horn section and background singers, and they were all just really extraordinary.
Awesome.
And we had I don't know, I'm not sure what Soundstage holds, but about 1,800 people, and it was just an exciting evening. And there was a new guy I'd never met before. There were three of us on the bill, Andy and myself, and then this new guy, Patrick Dunn. Mm-hmm. And this guy, he's about 30 years old, so he's got a lot more energy than I do. And
well, that's cool.
And he is, not an Elvis impersonator at all. He looks like him, and he dresses the way he dresses, and he's to me, he's just a kid,
Yes.
And he's just very very energetic on stage, but not in an Elvis way.
Yes.
And he sings in his own voice, but he's got an incredible range, and he sang Elvis songs in his own way, which is what I've tried to do.
Well, and I was going to say,
and that's what Andy does.
I was going to say that. Of course, Andy and I go way, way back to Memphis days too. But I was going to say this about you, and this is the way I describe you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but when Brenda Lynn and I were talking, I said this guy is just one of the most incredible soul singers on the planet, and he's a walking Elvis encyclopedia. I mean, not just of the knowledge of Elvis, but just of the nuances of how the vocal worked and how the charisma worked and all that, all the elements of that. But you're a soul singer who just happens to, can sound a lot like Elvis, or at least bring in that persona into the music. Is that kind of what you would say?
Thank you. You're
not a jumpsuit guy. You're not a jumpsuit guy. That's what I'm saying.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
Right.
But nobody ever says anything to me like you just said about the soul ingredient, and I've always felt like I do I do enjoy that.
Yeah, well, you do it so well. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I love, man. David Porter was at this show last night.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the first time I'd ever met him. He has eaten at my son's restaurant in Memphis a few times, but I had never actually met David before.
Yeah, yeah.
Such a nice guy, and such a magical history with him.
Yeah, well, to tell the folks that are listening, Stax Records would not be Stax Records without David Porter.
Oh, absolutely not. He's like the king of Stax Records.
Yes. Yes.
And the show last night also included Gene Chrisman on. He played a few songs on drums.
Nice.
He did the original, Elvis "Suspicious Minds in the Ghetto," Kentucky Rain. That was him.
Yeah.
You know that.
Was Norbert on that gig? Norbert Putnam on that gig last night?
Norbert was there last night, and he played a couple of songs. These guys these guys are way older than me, and I'm 70 now, Mac.
No, you're not.
And Norbert said on stage last night, he said, "I'm 41 for the second time."
Nice. Well, he's a ball of energy too, though.
I knew he was in his early 80s, and he still acts and plays like he's 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
It was a great evening, really, really good evening. And Larry Strickland, bass singer with the Stamps.
Yes, of course.
He was there to sing "Way Down" with us.
Oh, nice.
Nice. And oh my gosh, he was just, Larry's always been an excellent singer.
Yeah.
And
wonderful.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So where are you headed? Where are you headed right now?
We're sitting at the airport waiting for a flight to Charlotte, and then change planes and fly to Frankfurt, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Now, near Frankfurt, Germany, is a little bitty town called Bad Nauheim, and that is the town where Elvis lived. He owned a house there when he was in Germany when he was in the army.
Right.
And we're staying at the hotel that he first stayed in when he went over there, when he first went to Germany. And then after he was there a couple of months, he bought a house over there just for more privacy and what you might expect, you know.
Yeah.
And I was over there once 8 years ago, and it's just a beautiful little town, just absolutely gorgeous scenery.
Yeah.
And they've preserved everything the way that it was when Elvis was there.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a guitar in Germany when he was there and played it the whole time he was there. And just in his house, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't make any personal appearances. He just played it there in his house. And then when it came time for him to fly back home and leave the army, he left it with the city of Bad Nauheim to do whatever they wanted with.
Really?
So they put it in a museum. Yeah, they put it in a museum. And 8 years ago when I was there, right at the end of the show that I was doing with him, the organizer, the guy in charge, the man and woman in charge, walked out on stage with that guitar, and they handed it to me.
No way.
And
cool.
And they handed it to me and said, "We would love for you to play one song with this guitar."
Really?
And I'm sure you're probably familiar with this. When he got out of the army, he did an album called Elvis Is Back. And all those sessions included things like It's Now or Never, Are You Lonesome Tonight?
Yes.
But the album did not have those singles, but it had a lot of other good songs on it. One was called I Will Be Home Again, which was a duet that he did with Charlie Hodge.
Nice.
And when he was in Germany, he was practicing that song with Charlie. Charlie was in the army with him. And he was practicing that song. There are pictures of him rehearsing that song with that guitar.
Yeah.
And so that's the song that I did when I played that guitar. And then I very gently handed them the guitar back.
Yeah. Was it tuned when they gave it to you?
It was close. It was close. I
Close enough.
a little bit. Yeah.
Close enough. Now you were friends with. We're not going to dig way into your history here because I know you're short on time. You got to catch that flight. But you were friends with Charlie Hodge, right? And you spent some time at Graceland and the whole thing.
Yes. He was an extraordinary human being to us. He was just such a sweetheart of a guy, and he was one of Elvis's closest friends. People who are listening would recognize that Charlie Hodge was the kind of short guy that played rhythm guitar on stage with Elvis, that would hand him the water and scarves.
Yeah.
And they met in the army, and Charlie was with him to the very end. And Charlie actually lived at Graceland. He had his own little kind of mini apartment set up in the basement.
Yes.
And it was nice. We used to go over there and visit with him back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
You know, a couple of times when we would visit him, we would cross paths with Elvis, but at a distance. You know, we didn't try to.
Yeah,
you know, we tried not to. We tried not to encourage him to sit us down with Elvis or anything like that. We just sort of nodded or spoke. Yeah. And that was that. Now, when I was a whole lot younger, as you know, when I was 15, I met Elvis, and I mean, I really met him. I talked to him for like 20 minutes, and I was just full of questions and excitement, and just couldn't believe I was standing in his presence. You know.
Yeah.
But
well, it rubbed off on you.
Well, thanks.
Because it's you've had a long career. Now, not just doing the Elvis thing. This is Elvis Week, so we're talking about Elvis a lot, but not just doing Elvis music. And in fact, we're going to be playing some of your music on our show this evening. And
awesome.
So you know, we do sort of a blend of jazz and Southern elements. So you've got a great version of Over the Rainbow, for instance. What a Wonderful World. I mean, you just do it all, and you do it all in your style, which is wonderful. So, a lot of people connect you because you've done this for so many years with the symphonies and that sort of thing with Elvis, but you do your own thing, and that's great as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Hey, I wish I could write songs. I wish I could write songs as well as you, man. You're a great songwriter.
Oh, thank you.
I want to tell Terry Mike, when Mackie and I first started doing this radio show 2 years ago, it's been 2 years, I guess. But during that first week, he told me about you, played some of your music for me, and said, this is one of my favorite singers. So I love your music. There's such a variety. And again, you're your own artist, even with all the Elvis connections too.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we can let you go here, but tell folks the best way to find you. I guess, is it just Terry Mike Jeffrey online, or what's the best way people can find you? They're listening to our show.
I have a website, just terrymike.com.
Okay.
And then there's on Facebook. There's some people started a fan club, a fan page, basically years ago. I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. And it's just Terry Mike Jeffrey fans.
Great.
And
great. And that's on Facebook.
Yeah, man, it's such a pleasure to talk to both of you, and thank you for calling me.
Of course. Well, safe travels to you. Give our love to Debbie, and
I'll do it.
And just have a great time over there in Germany. And how many times have you been over there? I mean, I know you tour all the time.
I've been to Germany. This will be my third time. Debbie's first time.
Oh, and nice.
Yeah, and but we've been around,
everywhere.
Holland, France, England, a bunch. We were back in April. We were in Norway and Italy and England, and we went to Liverpool and spent a couple of days doing the Beatles stuff.
Nice.
I'm a Beatles fan too.
Yeah, I know you are. And people can find you in Kentucky. You're playing at a theater over there quite frequently too, right?
Quite a bit. It's called the Badgett Playhouse Theater. It's in Grand Rivers, Kentucky, which is kind of a small resort lakes area, and it's just a beautiful little place.
Badgett, Badgett.
That's it. That's it.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And we should mention real briefly that you were also the guy that sings with the symphonies a lot, doing a lot of these Elvis dates.
I do, yes.
Yeah. And that's just wonderful. So, well, safe travels to you. I love you. And
let me throw one more thing out to you before I hang up. It just hit me that this might be something interesting. I also do a complete Neil Diamond show now.
Really?
And nothing but Neil Diamond songs.
Wow.
And I do that at the Badgett Theater, but I'm close to not far from Nashville.
No, it's not far.
I'm doing it on September 7th in Portland, Tennessee.
Really?
It's not far.
At the, oh my gosh, what's the name of that theater?
That's the home of Ronnie McDowell, isn't it?
It is.
The Temple. It's Temple Theater.
Yeah.
Temple Theater.
And it's the Temple Theater in Portland, Tennessee on September 7th. So
nice.
I'd love for you all to see that, because I know you don't know me as doing any kind of Neil Diamond, but I do a complete Neil Diamond, 2-hour Neil Diamond show.
Well, I'm not surprised that you can do that.
and I love his music. I really do.
Of course, there's a Ronnie Tutt connection with that too, right?
That's right. Ronnie played for both.
Yeah, Elvis and
that's right.
Neil Diamond.
He played for Elvis and Neil Diamond both.
We should go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love for you
to see Terry Mike.
If you decide to go, give me a holler, and we'll get that set up.
We will. We would love to do that. Well, safe travels to you. I love you, and y'all have a safe trip.
And I appreciate you both talking to me and get me on the air with you. Yes, thank you, Brenda Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry Mike Jeffrey. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.